The Valanthi Dominion was a powerful empire. It had 1,000 worlds under its rule. The Valanthi people were beautiful and ancient. They lived for thousands of years. Their skin glowed with soft light like stars. Their eyes held colors that humans had no names for. Queen Selunis the Eternal had ruled for 4,000 years. She was wise. She was powerful. She was feared by enemies and loved by her people. But for the past 3 solar cycles, she had known only pain. Her youngest daughter was gone. Princess Virathene had disappeared during a simple diplomatic mission. Her convoy was attacked in the fringe sectors. These were the lawless parts of space where criminals ruled and laws meant nothing. When the Queen's soldiers arrived to investigate, they found only wreckage, bodies of guards, destroyed ships, but no princess. Queen Selunis sent search parties to every corner of the galaxy. She offered rewards that could buy entire planets. She threatened wars against any who might be hiding her daughter. But 3 years passed and nothing came. No real information, no true leads, only silence. The Queen began to accept the terrible truth. Her daughter was lost forever. She started the ancient Valanthi rituals of grief. She wore dark robes. She dimmed the lights of her palace. She prepared her heart to let go of her child. But far across the galaxy, in a place the Queen would never think to look, her daughter was still alive. The mining station was old and forgotten. It floated at the edge of known space, where star maps became uncertain and travelers became scarce. Most ships avoided this region. There was nothing here worth finding. Marcus Cole was not most people. He was a human salvage captain. His ship, the Vagrant Star, was 30 years old and held together by repairs and stubbornness. His crew was small, just 5 people including himself. They made their living by finding things others had abandoned, old ships, lost cargo, forgotten technology. It was not a glamorous life, but it was honest work. Marcus was 42 years old. His hair was going gray at the sides. His face had lines from years of stress and hard decisions. His eyes were tired but kind. He had been doing this work for 15 years, ever since he lost everything that mattered to him. He did not like to think about that. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Elena, his medic and second in command. She was looking at her scanner with a confused expression. "There's a cargo container in the lower section. It has life signs." Marcus frowned. "Life signs? In a cargo container? Faint, but definitely there. Something is alive in there." The crew exchanged worried looks. Finding living things in sealed containers was never good news. It usually meant smuggling, and smugglers were dangerous people. But Marcus had a rule. He never ignored life signs, not after what happened to his daughter. "Let's check it out," he said. They found the container deep in the station's abandoned cargo bay. It was marked with symbols Marcus did not recognize. Strange writing in a language his translator could not read. The container was sealed with heavy locks. "Someone wanted to keep this closed," muttered Kofi, the ship's engineer. He was the oldest member of the crew. His dark skin was wrinkled with age, and his hands were rough from decades of work. But those hands were clever. They could fix anything. "Can you open it?" Marcus asked. Kofi studied the locks for a moment. Then he smiled. "Give me 5 minutes." It took him 3. The container hissed open. Cold air rushed out, carrying a strange smell, sweet and metallic at the same time. Marcus stepped forward with his flashlight, not knowing what he would find. What he found broke his heart. She was young. That was the first thing he noticed. Young and small and terribly thin. Her skin, which should have glowed with bioluminescent light, was dim and gray. Her clothes were torn. Her body was covered with bruises and cuts. She was curled in the corner of the container like a wounded animal, shaking with fear. But her eyes were what Marcus would never forget. They were like captured nebulae, swirling colors of purple and gold and blue, and they were filled with terror. "Please," she whispered. Her voice was weak. "Please don't hurt me." Elena pushed past Marcus immediately. Her medical instincts took over. She knelt beside the alien girl and began scanning her with gentle hands. "She's severely malnourished," Elena reported. Her voice was tight with anger. "Dehydrated. Multiple injuries, some old, some new. Signs of—" She stopped. Her jaw tightened. "Signs of prolonged captivity." Marcus felt cold fury rising in his chest. Someone had kept this girl locked up. Someone had hurt her. Someone had treated her like cargo instead of a person. "Can you help her?" he asked. "I'll do everything I can." They carried her carefully to the ship. She was so light, too light. Marcus could feel her bones through her skin. She kept flinching away from their hands, expecting pain instead of help. Once she was settled in the medical bay, she finally spoke more than a few words. "I am Virathine," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Third daughter of Queen Selunis, princess of the Valanthi Dominion." The crew stared at her in shock. "A princess?" said Torres, the youngest crew member. His eyes were wide. "Like a real princess?" "I know you have no reason to believe me," Vira continued, her glowing eyes filled with tears. "I know humans do not know my people, but I am telling the truth. I was taken 3 years ago. They have kept me for—" She could not finish. The memories were too painful. Marcus knelt beside her bed. He made his voice as gentle as he could. "Hey, look at me." Slowly, she met his eyes. "I believe you," he said simply. "And you're safe now. No one is going to hurt you on my ship." Later, when Vira was sleeping, the crew gathered in the small common room to discuss what to do. The conversation quickly became an argument. "We should contact the Valanthi directly," Elena suggested. "Tell them we found their princess. They'll probably reward us." "Or kill us," Kofi said grimly. "Humans are nobody in this galaxy. You think a powerful empire is going to trust us? They might think we were part of the kidnapping." "We could just leave her at a station," Torres said. He looked uncomfortable. "Let someone else deal with it. This isn't our problem." "She's a child," Marcus said quietly. "She's an alien princess. That's not the same thing. She's alone. She's scared. She's been through hell." Marcus's voice hardened. "That makes her exactly the same as any other child who needs help." The room fell silent. Marcus stood and walked to the small window. Outside, stars drifted past slowly, cold and distant. The universe was vast and uncaring. He knew that better than anyone. 6 years ago, his colony was raided. His wife was killed. His daughter, only 8 years old, was taken. He searched for her for 2 years, spent every credit he had, called in every favor. In the end, he found only a grave on a forgotten moon. He could not save his own child, but maybe he could save someone else's. "We're taking her home," Marcus announced. "Captain," Torres started. "I've made my decision. We're taking her to Valanthi space. We're returning her to her mother." He turned to face his crew. "I'm not asking you to agree. I'm not asking you to be happy about it. But this is what we're doing." Kofi nodded slowly. "It's a long journey. Dangerous, too. But I'm with you, Captain." Elena stepped forward. "Someone has to keep you idiots alive. I'm in." Torres hesitated, then sighed. "Fine. But when this goes wrong, I want everyone to remember I said it was a bad idea." Marcus almost smiled. Almost. What none of them knew was that their decision had already set events in motion. The people who took Vira were called the Crimson Maw. They were the most feared criminal syndicate in the galaxy. They had never lost cargo before, and they had no intention of starting now. Deep in the dark spaces between stars, Hunter ships were already powering up their engines. Their target, one aging human salvage vessel. The hunt had begun. The vagrant star moved through space like a tired old animal. Its engines hummed with effort. Its hull creaked with age. But it kept going. It always kept going. Marcus stood at the navigation console, studying the star maps. The journey from the fringe sectors to Valanthe space was long. Very long. The safe routes would take 2 months. But Marcus knew they did not have 2 months. The Crimson Maw was coming. "How far behind are they?" he asked Elena, who was monitoring the scanner. "Hard to say, but I'm picking up 3 ships at the edge of sensor range. They're following our trail." 3 ships. Hunter vessels built for speed and combat. Against them, the vagrant star had old engines and 2 small defense guns that barely worked. "Can we outrun them?" Kofi asked. Marcus shook his head. "Not in a straight race. We need to be smart. Find places to hide, take routes they won't expect." It was not a good plan, but it was the only plan they had. In the medical bay, Princess Vira was slowly getting stronger. Elena visited her every few hours. She brought food, medicine, clean clothes, small kindnesses that Vira had forgotten existed. For 3 years, she had known only cruelty. Guards who laughed at her pain, masters who saw her as property, cold cells and colder hearts. Now she had warm blankets, hot meals, people who smiled at her. It felt like a dream. She kept waiting to wake up. "How are you feeling today?" Elena asked, checking her vital signs. "Better," Vira said. It was true. Her skin was starting to glow again. Faint, but visible. Her body was healing. Her mind was slower to recover. "Can I ask you something?" Vira said hesitantly. "Of course." "Why are you helping me? Humans do not know my people. We have never done anything for your species. Why would you risk your lives for a stranger?" Elena was quiet for a moment. She finished her examination before answering. "When I was young, my family lived on a colony world. One year there was a terrible sickness. Many people died. We had no medicine, no doctors. We thought we would all perish." She paused, remembering. "Then a ship came, traders from another system. They had no reason to stop, no reason to help. But they did. They gave us medicine, stayed for weeks to help us recover. When my mother asked why, their captain said something I never forgot." "What did he say?" Elena smiled softly. "He said, 'Because you needed help.' That's reason enough." Vira thought about these words for a long time. As the days passed, Vira began to explore the ship. It was small and cramped compared to the palaces she grew up in. The walls were dented, the floors were scratched, everything looked old and worn, but it was full of life. She watched Kofi working in the engine room. His hands moved with practiced skill, fixing problems before they became disasters. He hummed old songs while he worked, songs from Earth, from a country called Ghana, from a childhood 7 decades past. "You love this ship," Vira observed. Kofi chuckled. "This old girl? She's held together by tape and prayers. But yes, I love her. She's gotten us through many hard times." "How long have you been with Captain Marcus?" 12 years now. He found me on a station, drinking away my pension. My wife had passed. My children had their own lives. I had nothing left to live for. Kofi patted the engine like it was a pet. "Marcus gave me a purpose again, a family. He seems like a good man. The best I've ever known. Don't tell him I said that. His head is big enough already." Vira laughed. It surprised her. She had not laughed in 3 years. She also spent time with Torres, the youngest crew member. He was 23 years old, nervous, and talked too much when he was scared, which was often. "So you're really a princess?" he asked for the 5th time. "Like with crowns and thrones and stuff?" "We do not wear crowns, but yes, I am royalty." "That's wild. I've never met royalty before. I've never met aliens before either, actually. Well, I've seen them at stations, but never talked to one. You're the first. Is that weird? Sorry if that's weird. Vyra found his rambling strangely comforting. It was so different from the cold silence of her captivity. It is not weird, she assured him. You are the first humans I have truly known as well. Really? What do you think of us? Vyra considered the question carefully. Her tutors had taught her that humans were primitive, aggressive, barely worth noticing. A young species that had only recently discovered space travel. They had no ancient history, no great empires, no significant achievements. But her tutors had never met Marcus Cole. I think, she said slowly, that my people have much to learn about yours. On the 10th day, Marcus called everyone to the common room. His face was grim. We have a problem. The Crimson Maw ships are gaining on us. They'll catch us within 2 days if we stay on this course. What do we do? Elena asked. Marcus pulled up a map on the old display screen. It showed a dense field of rocks and debris floating in space. The Thessian Corridor. It's an asteroid belt. Very dangerous. Most pilots avoid it completely. Most pilots are smart, Kofi muttered. If we go through it, we might lose them. Their ships are faster, but they're also bigger, harder to navigate tight spaces. Torres looked pale. And if we don't make it through? Then we become part of the asteroid field. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood the risk. Flying through an asteroid belt was almost suicidal. One wrong move, and they would be crushed. Vyra stepped forward. I cannot ask you to do this for me. The danger is too great. Perhaps if you surrender me to them. No. Marcus's voice was firm. We don't surrender people to criminals. Ever. But, Vyra, listen to me. The moment we found you, you became one of us. That means we protect you. That's not negotiable. His words hit her like a wave. She had been property for so long. A thing to be bought and sold. Now this human, this stranger, was telling her she mattered. She had to turn away so they would not see her tears. The Thessian Corridor was terrifying. Asteroids filled the space like an ocean of deadly rocks. Some were small as houses. Others were large as mountains. They tumbled and spun in endless chaos. One impact would destroy the vagrant star completely. Marcus sat at the pilot controls, his hands steady despite the danger. His eyes were focused. His breathing was calm. Behind him, the crew strapped themselves in and prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Here we go, Marcus said. The ship dove into the asteroid field. What followed was the most intense hour of Vera's life. Marcus flew like a man possessed. He twisted and turned through gaps that seemed impossible. He used the ship's salvage grapples to push off larger asteroids, swinging around them like a dancer. The ship groaned and screamed with the strain. Behind them, the 3 hunter ships followed. They were fast and deadly. But Marcus had been right. Their size worked against them. They could not match his insane maneuvers. They're falling behind, Elena shouted. But it was not over. One hunter ship pushed forward, determined to catch them. Its pilot was skilled, ruthless. He fired weapons that exploded against nearby asteroids, sending debris flying toward the vagrant star. Hold on! Marcus yelled. He did something no sane pilot would do. He flew directly toward the largest asteroid in sight. At the last possible second, he fired the grappling hooks. They caught the asteroid's surface. The ship swung around it at incredible speed, using the rock's own gravity to change direction. The hunter ship tried to follow. It was not fast enough. The ship collided with the asteroid's side. The explosion lit up the corridor like a small sun. The other 2 hunter ships stopped, unable to continue through the chaos. They had done it. When they emerged from the Thessian corridor, the crew was shaking with relief. Torres was actually crying. Kofi was laughing and cursing at the same time. Elena kept checking everyone for injuries. including herself. Marcus sat quietly in the pilot's chair. His hands were finally trembling. The adrenaline was fading, and exhaustion was taking its place. Vira approached him slowly. He had burns on his hands from the overheated controls. His face was pale with strain. "You almost died," she said. "For me. Part of the job." "No." She shook her head. "No, it is not. I have met many beings in my life. Politicians, warriors, kings. None of them would have done what you did today." Marcus finally looked at her. His tired eyes held something she could not quite name. Sadness, maybe. Old pain. "I had a daughter once," he said quietly. "She was taken from me. I couldn't save her." He paused. "I won't fail again." Vira understood then. She understood why this human pushed so hard, why he risked so much. He was not just saving her. He was trying to save the child he had lost. She took his burned hand gently in hers. Her touch was cool and soothing. Healing energy flowed from her skin, a small gift her people possessed. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Marcus nodded. Words were not needed. Behind them, in the darkness of space, a Crimson Maw commander reported to his superiors. The human had escaped. The cargo had not been recovered. The response was immediate. If ordinary hunters could not stop this human, they would send someone who could. They would send the collector, and the collector never failed. News traveled fast in the criminal underworld. Within days, every smuggler, pirate, and outlaw in the galaxy knew the story. A human salvage captain had stolen cargo from the Crimson Maw. Not just any cargo. A Valanthi princess worth more money than most planets. The bounty on Marcus Cole's head grew every hour. First it was 10,000 credits, then 50,000, then 100,000. By the end of the week, it was 500,000 credits, enough money to buy a small moon. "We're famous," Torres said nervously, looking at the bounty notice on his datapad. "That's not good, right? That's definitely not good." "It's not ideal," Marcus admitted. "We need to find somewhere safe to hide. Repair the ship, resupply." But finding safety proved impossible. Marcus tried contacting old friends first, people he had worked with, people he had helped in the past. Surely someone would offer shelter. He was wrong. At the first station, the dockmaster refused them entry. "We don't want trouble with the Crimson Maw," he said through the communication screen. "Find somewhere else." At the second station, they were allowed to land. But within an hour, Marcus noticed armed men watching their ship. Someone had reported them. They left quickly, barely escaping a trap. At the third station, an old contact named Vrix agreed to meet Marcus. Vrix was a Terralian merchant, blue skin, 4 arms, and a reputation for fair dealing. Marcus had saved his life once, years ago. They met in a dark corner of a crowded bar. "I cannot help you, my friend," Vrix said sadly. His 4 hands were folded together in a gesture of apology. "The Crimson Maw has eyes everywhere. If I shelter you, they will destroy my business, my family, everything I have built. I'm not asking for much, just fuel, some supplies." "We'll be gone in hours." Vrix shook his head. "You do not understand. This is not about you anymore. The Crimson Maw has made you an example. Anyone who helps you will suffer the same fate they plan for you." Marcus felt cold anger in his chest. "So everyone is just going to look away, let them win?" "That is how the galaxy works, Marcus. The strong crush the weak. The rest of us survive by not getting involved." Vrix leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Your species is new to space. You have no allies, no powerful friends. No one will risk themselves for humans. Then we'll survive on our own." Vrix looked at him with something like pity. "I hope you do, my friend. I truly do." Back on the ship, Vira watched the crew struggle with growing despair. Their fuel was running low. Food supplies were shrinking. The ship needed repairs that they could not afford. and everywhere they went, doors closed in their faces. She began to understand something about the galaxy she had never seen from her palace. Cruelty was easy. Kindness was expensive. One evening, she sat with Marcus in the common room. He was studying maps, looking for any route that might be safe. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. "I am sorry," she said quietly. He looked up. "For what?" "For all of this. You saved my life, and it has brought you nothing but suffering. Your crew is in danger because of me. You are hunted because of me." Marcus set down his data pad. He looked at her with an expression she could not read. "Vyra, do you know why I became a salvage captain?" She shook her head. "After I lost my daughter, I wanted to disappear. I wanted to fly to the edges of space and never come back. I thought if I went far enough, the pain would stop." He smiled sadly. "It didn't work. The pain followed me everywhere. But somewhere along the way, I found something else." "What?" "Purpose. Every time I help someone, every time I save something that would otherwise be lost, I feel like her death wasn't completely meaningless. Like I'm honoring her memory by being the person she believed I was." Vyra felt tears forming in her eyes. "She must have loved you very much. She was 8 years old when they took her. The last thing she said to me was, 'Daddy, I know you'll come for me.'" His voice cracked slightly. "I was too late. I'll carry that failure forever. But I won't fail again. Not with you. Not ever." They found temporary shelter at a remote fuel depot. It was small, dirty, and run by a species that asked no questions. The perfect place to hide for a few days, or so they thought. On the second night, Torres disappeared for several hours. When he returned, he seemed nervous, jumpy. He avoided eye contact with everyone. Marcus noticed but said nothing. He wanted to trust his crew. That trust was about to be broken. The attack came at dawn. 40 armed soldiers surrounded the fuel depot. They wore the black armor of the Crimson Maw. Their weapons were pointed at the vagrant star. Their leader spoke through a loudspeaker. "Human captain, we know you are inside. Surrender the Valanthi girl and you will die quickly. Resist, and we will make your suffering last for years." Marcus looked at his crew. Elena was already grabbing medical supplies, preparing for the worst. Kofi was powering up what few weapons they had. Torres stood frozen, his face white as snow. "Torres," Marcus said quietly, "look at me." The young man could not meet his eyes. "You contacted them, didn't you?" Torres started crying. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. They have my sister. They said they would kill her if I didn't tell them where we were. I didn't have a choice. I didn't—" "Torres." Marcus's voice was calm, sad but calm. "I understand. You do? Family makes us do desperate things. I know that better than anyone." Elena stepped forward, anger on her face. "He betrayed us, Marcus. We could die because of him." "We could die anyway. Being angry won't change that." Marcus checked his weapon. "Right now we need to survive. Torres, can you fight?" Torres wiped his eyes. His hands were shaking. Yes. I can fight." "Good. Because we're going to need everyone." What happened next was not really a battle. A battle suggests two equal sides fighting each other. This was something different. This was 5 humans against an army. The Crimson Maw soldiers expected easy prey. They expected frightened victims who would surrender at the first sign of force. They expected the fight to last minutes. They were wrong. Marcus Cole and his crew fought like nothing the soldiers had ever seen. Elena, the medic who spent her life healing people, picked up a weapon and held the left corridor alone. She took a shot to her shoulder early in the fight. She wrapped it with one hand and kept shooting with the other. When her gun ran out of power, she used it as a club. Kofi, the old engineer with broken dreams, defended the engine room against 8 attackers. He used tools as weapons. He used his fists. He used 67 years of accumulated stubbornness. When they finally brought him down, 4 soldiers were unconscious around him. Torres, the frightened young man who had betrayed them, found something unexpected inside himself. Guilt, maybe, or a desperate need to make things right. He threw himself into the fight with reckless courage. He saved Elena's life twice, and Marcus was everywhere. He moved through the battle like a force of nature, not graceful, not elegant, just relentless. Every time he fell, he got back up. Every time they pushed him back, he pushed forward again. The soldiers had training. They had numbers. They had superior weapons. But they had never fought humans before. They did not understand what humans were capable of when they were protecting something they loved. The turning point came when Torres made a decision. He saw 3 soldiers approaching the medical bay where Vira was hiding. He was wounded, tired, out of ammunition, but he remembered what Marcus said. Family makes us do desperate things. These people had become his family, and he had betrayed them. He would not do it again. Torres grabbed a fallen soldier's weapon and charged the 3 attackers. He screamed something wordless, something raw. He shot 2 of them before the 3rd turned and fired. The blast hit Torres in the chest, but as he fell, he fired one last time. The 3rd soldier dropped. The medical bay was safe. When it was over, 12 Crimson Maw soldiers were dead. 20 more were wounded. The rest retreated. Unable to believe what had happened, 5 humans had held off 40 trained killers, but victory had a price. Torres lay on the floor of the corridor, blood pooling around him. Marcus knelt beside him, holding his hand. Elena worked frantically, but they all knew it was too late. "Did we win?" Torres whispered. "Yeah, kid. We won." "Is she safe? The princess?" "She's safe. Because of you." Torres smiled weakly. "Good. That's good. Tell my sister. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I tried to make it right." "I'll tell her. Captain, I'm glad I was part of your crew, even if it was only for a little while." Marcus squeezed his hand. "You were family, Torres. Right until the end." Torres closed his eyes. He did not open them again. Vera emerged from the medical bay after the fighting stopped. She saw the destruction, the blood, the bodies. She saw Torres lying still on the ground, Marcus kneeling beside him. She saw what these humans had done for her. "He died protecting me," she said. Her voice was hollow with shock. "He died protecting all of us," Marcus corrected gently. "He made mistakes, but in the end, he chose to be brave. That's what matters." Vira looked at the scene around her, at Elena, wounded but alive, at Kofi, battered but standing, at Marcus, bleeding from a dozen cuts but still focused on his fallen crewmen. Her people lived for thousands of years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They considered themselves wise and ancient and superior. But she had never witnessed anything like this. Humans lived such short lives. Every moment was precious to them. Every year was significant. And yet they spent those precious moments saving strangers. They risked their brief existence for people they barely knew. It was insane. It was beautiful. They buried Torres on a small moon nearby. It was quiet and peaceful, with a sky full of stars. Marcus said a few words, simple words about courage and redemption and second chances. Then they returned to the ship. They had no time to mourn properly. The Crimson Maw would send more soldiers, and this time, they would send someone worse. As they prepared to leave, a transmission came through. An encrypted message that made even Marcus's blood run cold. A face appeared on the screen, pale, scarred, eyes that held no emotion at all. "Human," the face said. "I am the collector. You have something that belongs to my employers. I am coming for it. No one escapes me. No one survives me. Enjoy your remaining hours." The transmission ended. Marcus stared at the blank screen. He had heard stories about the Collector. Everyone had. The most feared hunter in the galaxy, a being who had never failed to capture a target. Behind him, Elena spoke quietly. "What do we do now?" Marcus took a deep breath. He looked at his small, wounded crew, at the princess who had become like a daughter to him, at the old ship that had carried them through so much. "We keep going," he said. "We keep fighting, and we find a way to win." It sounded impossible. But then again, so did everything they had already done. The Vagrant Star was dying. The battle at the fuel depot had damaged the ship badly. Engines were failing. Life support was struggling. Holes in the hull were patched with emergency sealant that would not last much longer. Elena sat in the medical bay, her wounded shoulder wrapped in bandages. She had lost a lot of blood. Her face was pale, but she refused to rest. Kofi was in the engine room trying to keep the ship running with broken hands. His fingers had been crushed during the fight. Every movement caused him pain, but he kept working. And Marcus. Marcus had internal bleeding that he was hiding from everyone. He could feel it, a deep ache in his side that grew worse with every hour. But he said nothing. His crew needed a captain, not a patient. They drifted through empty space, too weak to run, too stubborn to surrender. "How long until the Collector finds us?" Elena asked. Marcus checked the sensors. His vision blurred for a moment. He blinked it away. "A few hours, maybe less. And our weapons? Mostly destroyed. We have one defense gun still working. Barely." Silence filled the bridge. Everyone knew what this meant. When the Collector arrived, they would have no way to fight, no way to escape, no way to survive. They had come so far, done so much, and now it would end in the cold darkness of space. Vira sat alone in the cargo bay where Marcus had first found her. 3 months ago, she had been a broken thing, a piece of cargo waiting to be sold. She had given up hope, given up on life, given up on everything. Then a human opened that container and changed everything. She thought about what she had learned since then, about Elena, who stayed awake for 40 hours to create medicine for an alien she had never met, about Kofi, who treated the ship like a living thing and the crew like his children, about Torres, who made terrible mistakes but found redemption in his final moments, and about Marcus, the man who carried so much pain inside him, who had lost his daughter and never recovered, who saved strangers because he could not save the one person who mattered most. These humans lived such short lives, 80 years, 90 if they were lucky, a blink of an eye compared to her people. But they burned so bright, they loved so fiercely, they fought so hard. Her tutors had called them primitive, insignificant, barely worth noticing. Her tutors were fools. Vira made a decision. She walked to the communication console. Her hands trembled slightly as she entered a code, a frequency she had memorized as a child, a frequency she had been afraid to use for 3 years. The Royal Emergency Channel of the Valanthi Dominion. If the Crimson Maw intercepted this signal, they would know exactly where she was. They would come faster, hit harder, but Vira no longer cared about that. These humans had given everything for her. Now it was her turn to give something back. She pressed the transmit button. "This is Princess Vira Thene, 3rd daughter of Queen Salunis the Eternal. I am alive. I am aboard a human vessel called the Vagrant Star. We are under attack by the Crimson Maw. I am sending our coordinates. Please, please come. Not for me, for the humans who saved me. They deserve to live." She ended the transmission and sat back. Maybe help would come. Maybe it would not. But at least she had tried. Marcus found her in the cargo bay an hour later. "You sent a message," he said. It was not a question. "Yes." "The Crimson Maw probably heard it too." "Yes." Marcus sat down beside her. He moved slowly, carefully. Vira noticed his hand pressing against his side. You're hurt, she said. Badly hurt. You've been hiding it. I'm fine. You're lying. Marcus smiled tiredly. Yeah, I am. Why? Why do you push yourself so hard? Why won't you let anyone help you? He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because if I stop moving, I might not start again. Because this crew depends on me. Because you depend on me. He looked at her with those tired, kind eyes. Because I made a promise to get you home, and I keep my promises. Vyra felt tears running down her face. I don't want you to die for me. I know, kid, but some things are worth dying for. The collector arrived 2 hours later. His ship was massive, black as night, shaped like a predator. It moved through space with terrible grace, like a shark swimming toward wounded prey. The vagrant star looked like a toy beside it. Human vessel. The collector's voice came through the speakers. Cold. Empty. You have caused me considerable trouble. I respect that, but now it ends. Surrender the princess, and I will kill you quickly. You have my word. Marcus stood on the bridge. Elena was beside him, barely able to stand. Kofi was there too, his broken hands wrapped in bandages, 3 humans against an army. And if we refuse, Marcus asked, then I will board your ship. I will hurt you in ways you cannot imagine, and I will take the princess anyway. The only question is how much you suffer first. Marcus looked at his crew, his family. They had been through so much together, fought so hard, lost so much. Any regrets? He asked. Elena shook her head. None. Kofi smiled. It's been an honor, Captain. Marcus turned back to the communication screen. You want her? Come and take her. The collector's soldiers boarded the ship, 50 of them, elite warriors, the best the Crimson Maw had. They moved through the corridors with professional efficiency, expecting broken victims. They found something else. Marcus had prepared a surprise. The ship was old, damaged, falling apart, but it still had some secrets, emergency systems, backup power, tricks that only a salvage captain would know. The first squad walked into a corridor and triggered a trap. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, crushing 3 soldiers instantly. Another squad found themselves walking into a room where the gravity suddenly reversed, sending them smashing into the ceiling. It was not enough to win. Marcus knew that. But it was enough to slow them down, enough to make them work for every meter, and it was enough to keep them busy while Marcus executed his real plan. The collector himself finally boarded the ship. He was tall, thin. His skin was gray like old stone. His eyes were completely black, with no whites at all. He moved with unnatural grace, stepping over the bodies of his fallen soldiers without a glance. He found Marcus in the cargo bay. The human stood alone, one hand pressed against his bleeding side, the other resting on a control panel. His face was pale. His body was broken, but his eyes were steady. You are dying, the collector observed. I can smell the blood inside you. Probably, Marcus agreed. You cannot win this fight. You must know that. Probably not. Then why continue? Why resist? Your species values survival. This is illogical. Marcus smiled. It was a strange smile, peaceful almost. You want to know what's funny? I've been afraid of death my whole life, ever since I lost my daughter. Every night, I dream about that moment, about being too late, about failing her. He shook his head. But standing here now, I'm not afraid anymore. Why? Because I'm not failing this time. Vyra is going to live. I'm going to make sure of it. The collector tilted his head. You are one human. I have 50 soldiers. Your ship is crippled. How exactly will you ensure anything? Marcus's hand moved on the control panel. This ship has a reactor, old, unstable, but powerful. If I overload it, this entire ship becomes a bomb, big enough to destroy your ship too. The collector became very still. You would kill yourself? Without hesitation. And your crew? They've already agreed. We discussed this while you were boarding. Marcus's smile widened. Humans are crazy like that. We'd rather die free than live as slaves, and we'd definitely rather die than let you win. The collector stared at him. For the first time, something flickered in those black eyes. Not fear exactly, but uncertainty. You are bluffing. Try me. The standoff lasted 11 seconds. 11 seconds of silence. 11 seconds of two beings staring at each other. One who had never lost, and one who had nothing left to lose. Then space itself tore open. Light exploded outside the viewport. Brilliant, blinding, beautiful. Ships appeared from nowhere. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Warships with elegant curves and glowing hulls. The royal fleet of the Valanthi Dominion. Vyra's message had been received. At the center of the fleet was the largest ship Marcus had ever seen, the royal flagship, and standing on its bridge, visible through a massive viewport, was a figure dressed in robes of deep purple. Queen Selunis the Eternal had come for her daughter. The collector looked at the fleet surrounding his ship. For the first time in his long career, he understood that he had lost. "This is not over," he said to Marcus. "Yeah, it is." The collector turned and walked away. His soldiers followed. Within minutes, they had retreated to their ship. Within minutes more, that ship was trying to flee. It did not get far. The Valanthi fleet opened fire, not to destroy, to disable. The collector's ship was trapped, helpless, surrounded by enemies it could not defeat. Marcus watched this from the viewport. Then his legs gave out. He collapsed to the floor, the strength finally leaving his body. He had held on long enough, done enough, kept his promise. As darkness crept into his vision, he heard running footsteps, Vyra's voice, calling his name, Elena shouting for medical equipment. He smiled. He had saved her. He had actually saved her. For the first time in 6 years, Marcus Cole felt at peace. The royal flagship was called the Eternal Light. It was the largest ship in the Valanthi fleet, a floating palace made of crystal and metal. Its halls were filled with ancient art. Its walls glowed with soft bioluminescent light. Thousands of servants and soldiers walked its corridors. At its heart was the throne room. Queen Selunis stood before a massive viewport, watching the Crimson Maw ship burn in the distance. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Her face showed no emotion, but inside her heart was racing. 3 years. 3 years of grief. 3 years of searching. 3 years of slowly accepting that her youngest daughter was gone forever. And now, a single transmission had changed everything. "My queen," a servant approached carefully. "The human vessel has been secured. The princess is being brought aboard now." Selunis closed her eyes. She had ruled for 4,000 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had buried husbands, friends, and 2 of her own children. She thought she understood loss. She was wrong. Losing Vyra had broken something inside her, something she thought could never be broken. "Bring her to me," she whispered. "Bring me my daughter." Vyra walked through the corridors of the flagship in a daze. Everything felt unreal. The familiar symbols on the walls, the smell of home, the servants who bowed as she passed, tears streaming down their faces. 3 years ago, she had been taken from this world, dragged into darkness, broken and sold like an object. Now she was back, but she was not the same girl who had left. 2 guards walked beside her. They kept looking at her with wonder, as if they could not believe she was real. She understood their disbelief. She felt it too. "The throne room is ahead, princess," one guard said softly. Vera stopped walking. "Wait, the humans who saved me, where are they?" "They are being treated in the medical bay. The doctors say, take me to them first." The guard hesitated. "Princess, your mother is waiting. She has waited 3 years. Surely. And I will go to her. But first I must see them. Please." The guard saw something in her eyes, something hard and determined, something that had not been there before. "As you wish, Princess." The medical bay was bright and clean. Elena lay in one bed, her wounds being treated by Valanthi doctors. She looked small and pale against the white sheets. But she was awake. She was alive. Kofi was in another bed. His hands were wrapped in healing bandages. The Valanthi had technology that could repair broken bones in hours. He would be fine. And Marcus. Marcus lay in the center of the room. Machines surrounded him. Doctors moved around him with urgent expressions. His skin was gray. His breathing was shallow. His eyes were closed. Vyra rushed to his side. "What is wrong with him?" she demanded. A doctor turned to her. "Internal bleeding. Severe. He should have died hours ago. We are doing everything we can, but—" The doctor paused. "His body is badly damaged. He pushed himself far beyond human limits." Vyra took Marcus's hand. It was cold, rough, the hand of a man who had worked hard his whole life. "You cannot die," she whispered. "Not now, not after everything. Please, Marcus, please stay." His eyes fluttered. For a moment, he seemed to see her. "Hey, kid," he breathed. "You made it home. We made it. Together." He smiled weakly. "Good. That's good." Then his eyes closed again. Queen Salonis could wait no longer. She left the throne room and walked to the medical bay herself. Servants scrambled to follow her. Guards rushed ahead to clear the path. In 4,000 years, the queen had never left the throne room to meet anyone. People came to her. Always. But this was different. She entered the medical bay and stopped. There was her daughter, alive, real, standing beside a bed holding the hand of an unconscious human, crying. "Vyra," the queen whispered. Vyra turned. For a moment, neither of them moved. 3 years of separation stretched between them. 3 years of pain and grief and desperate hope. Then Vyra ran to her mother. "Mother, I'm back! He saved me!" Queen Salonis caught her daughter in her arms, and for the first time in centuries, the ancient queen wept. They held each other for a long time. No words were needed. The embrace said everything. The relief, the love, the overwhelming joy of reunion. Finally, Salonis pulled back. She cupped her daughter's face in her hands, studying every detail, memorizing her features all over again. "I thought I lost you forever," she said. Her voice trembled. "I began the grief rituals. I prepared to let you go." "I almost gave up," Vyra admitted. "Many times. But then he found me. Marcus. He found me and he saved me and he brought me home." Salonis looked at the unconscious human in the bed. This small, fragile creature. This being from a species her people had dismissed as insignificant. "Tell me everything," she said. So Vyra told her. She told her about the container, about Marcus opening it and finding her inside, about his decision to help her despite the danger, about Elena's medicine and Kofi's kindness and Torres's sacrifice. She told her about the chase through the asteroid belt, about the battles and the betrayals and the impossible victories. About humans who refused to surrender even when surrender was the only logical choice. She told her about Marcus's daughter, about the loss that drove him, about the promise he made to save someone else's child because he could not save his own. When she finished, Queen Salonis was silent. She walked slowly to Marcus's bed. She looked down at his pale, worn face. This human who had given everything for a stranger. This man who had fought an empire with nothing but courage and love. "Save him," she commanded her doctors. "Use every resource we have, the finest medicines, the most advanced technology. I do not care what it costs. Save this human's life." Yes, my queen. Marcus woke 3 days later. He opened his eyes and saw a ceiling made of crystal. Light danced across its surface like captured rainbows. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then he heard a familiar voice. "You sleep too much, Captain. It is very lazy." He turned his head. Vera sat beside his bed, smiling. She looked different, healthy, happy. Her skin glowed with warm light. Her eyes sparkled with life. "Hey, kid," he said. His voice was rough. "Where am I?" "The Royal Flagship, my mother's ship. You have been unconscious for 3 days. The doctor said you almost died 11 times. "Only 11? I must be slowing down." Vira laughed. Then she cried. Then she laughed again. "I thought I lost you," she said. "I thought you were going to die like Torres. I was so scared." "I'm too stubborn to die." Marcus tried to sit up. Pain shot through his body. "Okay, maybe I'm a little bit hurt." "Rest, Captain. You have earned it." Later that day, Queen Salunis visited him. She came alone, without guards or servants. She stood beside his bed and looked at him with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "Human," she said, "my daughter tells me you saved her life. Many times. I just did what anyone would do." "No, you did what no one else would do. I sent 100 search parties to find her, offered rewards that could buy solar systems, threatened wars, and none of it worked." She paused. "Then one human salvage captain found her by accident and brought her home against impossible odds." Marcus shrugged weakly. "I got lucky." "You got shot, stabbed, beaten, nearly killed. You lost a crew member. You faced the Crimson Maw's most feared hunter. And you never gave up. That is not luck. That is something else entirely." She sat down beside his bed. "The Queen of 1,000 worlds. Sitting like a regular person. I have lived for 4,000 years, she said. I have met countless species, warriors, scholars, kings. But I have never met anyone like you. I'm nothing special. You are wrong. You are exactly what is special about your species." She leaned forward. "Your people live such short lives. You have no empires, no ancient history, no great power. By every measure, you should be insignificant, but you are not. Why do you think that is?" Salunis smiled. It transformed her face, made her look almost young. "Because you care, despite everything, despite knowing you will die in mere decades, despite knowing you cannot possibly win against greater powers. You care anyway, you fight anyway, you love anyway." She shook her head in wonder. "It is foolish, it is irrational, and it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." 1 year later, the galaxy had changed. The Crimson Maw was destroyed. Queen Salunis had declared war on them personally. Within months, their empire of crime had crumbled. The Collector was captured and imprisoned for eternity. The Valanthi Dominion announced an alliance with humanity, the first official alliance humans had ever received from a major galactic power. Trade agreements, technology sharing, military cooperation. But more than that, something larger had shifted. The story of Marcus Cole spread across the stars. A human salvage captain who saved an alien princess. A man who defied impossible odds with nothing but courage and heart. A species that refused to abandon strangers in need. Other species began to look at humans differently, not as primitives, not as insignificants, but as something new, something unexpected, something remarkable. The dedication ceremony for the first human Valanthi joint space station was held on a beautiful day. Thousands attended. Diplomats, officials, reporters from 100 worlds. This was history being made. Marcus stood on the platform, uncomfortable in formal clothes. Beside him was Vira, now an ambassador between their peoples. Elena and Kofi were there too, honored guests of the Valanthi Dominion. Queen Salunis gave a speech. She spoke about friendship, about courage, about the unexpected heroes who change history. Then she did something no Valanthe monarch had ever done. She bowed to a human. "Marcus Cole," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd. "You gave me back my daughter. No reward could ever be enough. But know this, wherever humans go in this galaxy, they will have friends. They will have allies. They will never stand alone again." The crowd applauded. The sound rolled like thunder. Marcus looked out at the sea of faces, humans and aliens together, a future that had seemed impossible just a year ago. In the crowd, a young Valanthe child tugged on her parent's sleeve. "What are humans like?" she asked. Her parent looked at Marcus, at the scars on his face, at the kindness in his eyes, at the way he stood, humble and strong at the same time. "They are small," the parent answered. "They live brief lives, and they burn so very, very bright." That night, Marcus stood alone on an observation deck. Stars stretched out before him, infinite and beautiful. Somewhere out there was the grave of his daughter. Somewhere out there was the colony where he had lost everything, but somewhere out there was also the future, a future he had helped build. Vyra found him there. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "My daughter. She would have loved this, seeing humans and aliens working together, seeing the galaxy change." Vyra stood beside him. "Do you think she would be proud of you?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Yeah, I think she would." They stood together watching the stars, a human and an alien, a salvage captain and a princess, two people who had found each other against all odds. And in the vastness of space, where ancient empires measured worth by power and conquest, humanity had carved out a different legacy. They became known not for what they could destroy, but for what they refused to abandon. And that, the galaxy learned, made all the difference. The end.